Hello, everyone. This is Ross from Retro Dream Beam. I'm an eBay seller full time. I've been doing this with my fiance Netta for a couple years now. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm about to go into what we are shipping out today on Friday, but we had I was super busy the whole day from like 8 in the morning all the way to like almost midnight doing stuff, various things for eBay. So I didn't even realize how good the sales were. So we're just going to jump right into it. There's some cool things. So the first thing right here is the Old Guard miniatures. These are like vintage ones from like the 70s. This happens to be a French officer, an Abnaki, I think like an Indian right here. These are like a bigger scaled miniatures. People like these type of things. This went to a repeat buyer for $29.99. I listed that kind of recently, so that's pretty cool to get that sale like right away. All right, next up, I know a bit about this. This is a 95% complete like board game called Legendary Marvel Villains specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about it real quick. So Legendary is a co-op game where you're usually picking superheroes. It's usually Marvel, but they also have Predator, Alien movies. They have 007 ones, but you end up purchasing a bunch of cards, making a little deck, and then you're fighting like supervillains. This one kind of flipped the game on its head where you get to actually play as villains and you're fighting superheroes in the Marvel universe. It was like a bigger boxed board game. It actually came with its own playmat right here. This is just the cards, 95% complete. It's missing a couple of like super villains, so there's gonna be a couple like little missions that they can't play, but there's still a ton of stuff that they can use. Also, all of like the heroes, well, in this case, the villains are interchangeable with the other Marvel Legendary games. So yeah, this still sold. It's a pretty expensive game overall. Like people like this one. I don't know how many times it got like reprinted, but this ended up selling for $89.99. That's not even complete. It's missing the rules. It's missing the box, the playmat that I mentioned, and it's missing like a couple of cards, which is not the worst thing. All right, next up is also going to be a fun one. This is Descent Journeys in the Dark 2nd Edition. These are going to be from the Chains That Rust. It's a really expensive expansion. If you get the whole thing, it adds more monsters, heroes. It's basically like an add-on expansion, right? So these are the Wraith miniatures right here. You get your Elite one, and then you get your two normal ones right here, your two normal minions. And then also it comes with two cards. So you got the game is a campaign, and you'll have Act 1 and Act 2. So here's the Act 1 stats, and Act 2, everything gets kind of better, and then the heroes can get better equipment and stuff. So this is just the monsters for it. I think the full expansion's like $100, $200, depending on like, you know, what day you're looking at and how much you're willing to spend. So just these little monsters is $15.99. They are interchangeable with the different Descent Journeys in the Dark board game. So on the back right here, you'll see there's these little symbols, and these symbols let you know what type of areas they're allowed to appear. So this is, I think, like undead or something. I think this is like civilian or building or prison. I forget like the exact board game terminology, but you can use these in not just the expansion. All right, next up is also a really interesting one. So this is two posters. It's going international. It's for a RPG game called The Genesis. The concept of this RPG game is it's post-apocalyptic after I think there happens to be like a nuclear strike somewhere in Europe. And then, yeah, everything kind of has its own world. So this is actually designed by someone. I'll show you one of the posters. I'm trying to be like careful and respectful someone bought these too. So I'm trying not to like, they're pretty big posters. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Sorry for the crinklies. I at least wanted to show one of them. That's as best as I can. These are really big posters. So this is just going to be one of like the creatures in the world, or like one of like the messed up people from the nuclear fallout. Interesting one because this is designed by a blind person from Germany. I just happen to know that because I've run across him at conventions, and he made the book himself. And these are just like promotional posters. So there's two of them. Those sold for $74.98. People like all sorts of role-playing games. I'm not too sure if the gentleman still goes to conventions and sells his particular RPG. But yeah, really cool big posters for people that like that kind of stuff. All right, next up is going to be a book. It's been a bit since we sold books. Right here, it's going to be Fantasy Wargaming right here. I'm not too sure about this one. It's a hardcover. It's vintage. It has like a really cool front art, and then the back, it's like a laboratory. There's also like a wizard, demon, like snakes popping out of this tome right here. This ended up selling for $14.62. Like I said, it's been a while since we've sold some books. All right, this one I was surprised it didn't sell for too much. This is a full booster box for Munchkin by Steve Jackson Games. This is the collectible card game. They normally have their board game where you buy something, you get everything, and there's a bunch of expansions. You can add the promos, the bookmarks and stuff. They were trying to make a collectible game, kind of like a Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, where you buy booster packs, you get randomized stuff. So this is a full booster box. It's a first edition. It says right there on the back, this whole thing was only worth $17.99. There's like 36 packs in there. So yeah, usually even like dead card game stuff is going to be more expensive. So maybe this just did not land with the Munchkin players. They just want to spend money and, you know, get everything. They don't want to get randomized stuff. So yeah, pretty cheap for a booster box. All right, next up is going to be Lord of the Rings card. This is the Mithril coat right here. Bilbo ends up giving this to Frodo to protect him. It's like one of the rare materials in Lord of the Rings. This is a rare card. This ended up selling for $5.99. I got a bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff. The rares have been selling like at an okay rate, and I also did some bulk lots. So yeah, did a little bit better than I expected. All right, next up is going to be this from the Czech Republic, Edward. This brand before. I've seen this stuff before. These are like little decals and stuff that you add onto miniatures. I'm not like fully sure how they work because it's kind of like a tin little metal type of thing. So yeah, this ended up selling for $12.37. This is BF109E, whatever that one means. Yeah, it looks like some kind of like ship. It looks like some kind of like little ship. And there's instructions on the back on how you make that. All right, moving along. Speaking of the Munchkin, this is a bookmark. This is the official Munchkin Tavern 2016 bookmark of Geeking Weekly right here. Munchkin, the game, unrelated to the collectible one I just showed you. The bookmarks, you have them, a bunch of them on the table, and players can pick like 2 or 3 of them, and then it gives you these rule sets on how like the wacky rules, like what they basically do. This ended up selling for $10.12, almost as much as the booster box. I had another one, so I relisted it when I was at the storage unit. All right, next up is also a fun one that Aneta was super aware of. So these are going to be 4 napkin rings right here. Really cool napkin rings. They kind of like a snowflake design. They're kind of like metal. A lot of families and mothers and stuff or grandmas like to set up tables for when people come over to eat, right? And they let you put the napkins into these, so you kind of get to set the table. It's a little bit more fancier. This ended up selling for $13. She picks up all the kind of unique napkin ring designs that she can find. So I'm also aware of them now, so I'll pick them up when I see them. All right, next up is not just the nerdy stuff we sell. All right, next up is going to be something I listed recently, along with these little miniatures over here. You probably can't see this too much. This is like 15 or so little sci-fi metal bits and pieces. There's like 4 or 5 like spaceships. I could not identify them. There's a lot of little like missiles, little extra stuff that came with it, and it only has 1 base and a couple of stands so you can show that they're flying. So yeah, I literally just label this as bits and pieces. Took a bunch of good pictures, listed it recently, $13.49. All right, moving along, we have this for a board game. So Cool Miniatures or Not did a Zombicide board game. It's one of their more popular ones. I wasn't a fan of it. They did a ton of expansions. They did a bunch of different themes. So they have Ghostbusters. So this is Ghostbusters 1, a little expansion pack. But this is not the expansion pack. This is just, as you can see, the little rule book. So when you get the expansion, it will show you like, hey, these are what these extra Ghostbuster figures do. It shows you like the components you're supposed to get. So this is for number 1 and then pack 1. And this was for pack 2. These are just like instruction booklets. $8.99 for that stuff people usually toss away. Maybe they're just trying to complete their set, or they like Ghostbusters and they just want to have it because it was like a cheaper thing to purchase. All right, moving along, we have this one. I have like good memories about this. This is the Dragon Ball Z card game. This was out in like early 2000s. There's been a lot of different Dragon Ball Z card games. This is just a lot of 45 of them that I happen to get. I haven't gotten too much of this particular back right here. I know there's like a Super Dragon Ball Z. There's a bunch of different Panini, Bandai, like Dragon Ball card games, Dragon Ball Z card games. I remember as a kid, one of my first eBay purchases, I thought I was buying a booster box, kind of like this Munchkin thing, and I ended up buying a booster box of starter sets. So I thought I was going to get a bunch of random stuff, but I ended up getting all of the same decks. So I was kind of sad when I was a kid because I saved up a bunch of like Christmas money, birthday money, and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of these cards, $12. People do like all the Dragon Ball Z universe and stuff like that. All right, last item for the day. We have more of these. I've been selling a good amount of them. These are the Doctor Who board game player pieces. I think it's the 5th Doctor and the 10th Doctor, just the miniatures. This is a board game called, I think it's like Doctor Who Time of the Daleks, 5 to 6 player expansions. And then they had a bunch of different expansions. Each of the 5 to 6 player expansions would come with 2 doctors. They would also have like rules and tokens and cards. These are just the miniatures. So I'm not sure if they're using it for the board game or if they just like the Doctor Who miniatures to paint them up. People like to use miniatures for all sorts of stuff. These 2 little miniatures sold for $7.49. All right, that's everything. It's a lot of cool stuff, interesting stuff, and a really good day. I was so busy, I didn't even realize like how much sold. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.